right, we're not messing around anymore. It's time for Chris's new favorite. He says goodbye to one Cody Williams. And hello to who, Chris?
Tejon. No, I'm kidding.
That's my guy.
I would never do that. Over the weekend, I told you I was going to start looking into draft prospects a little bit more, and a guy that really, really stuck out to me. The first time he really dropped on my radar actually was during Crosstalk. Whitey brought him up, and I didn't really think much of it, which is a mistake I will not make again. I've heard his name in the draft cycle a couple times. Didn't really think he was going to be a fit for the Kings, and then I looked in to one Tristan da Silva out of Colorado, who's teammates with Cody Williams, and what I found was a guy that it just made too much sense. Alan, I can't believe that this guy has not been more on people's radar.
I'm watching the highlights now.
Now, Da Silva is first off, I think the most important thing when pointing out what makes Tristan da Silva, to me, the obvious pick is we've talked a lot about what do you do with this pick? Do you take somebody who's got potential? Do you take somebody young? Do you take somebody who's more NBA ready? Do you just trade the pick? This is a guy who's a senior right now, just played his senior season at Colorado, all 4 years. You show steady development. And, this past season, 16 points per game. Last season, 15.9. He's just under 40% from three in both of these two seasons, with just under 5 threes a game last year. He's 6'9", like a legitimate 6'9". Now, we looked at Cody Williams's measurements the other day, the draft measurements. Tristan da Silva, without shoes, is 6'8" and a quarter. With the downside is a 6'10" wingspan, where Cody Williams, I believe, had a 7'1" wingspan. So I don't really know about the defensive upside there, but this is really an offensive weapon that we're talking about here. Kevin O'Connor likes in his draft previews to do shades of. My shades of for him, he'll admit the Franz Wagner one. It's because both of them are originally from Germany, so there's kind of that influence of play there. And he plays a little bit straight up. He's not really a knock your socks off athlete, but he's big enough, especially at 6'9", is a fluid mover. Got some shades of Kyle Kuzma too, like a young Kyle Kuzma, just with his length and his scoring ability. And then the role that I honestly see him perfectly fitting in, you can see a lot of rookie season Keegan Murray in him, where it's just you could see him ready to catch and shoot. Now, will it be
he's quick
40% from three on the amount of attempts Keegan took? I don't think so. But again, Keegan was also the 4th pick in the draft. I think we're talking about the difference of 4 versus 13 in a down draft. He can be a player. I just look at his tape and I see somebody who's a ready to go role player right now. And who knows? He's still 22, 23 years old. There's a lot to grow in. I like it. When you look at his strengths, versatile offensive scorer, smart player, makes good cuts, uses his size in mismatches, has some 3-level scoring potential with a step-back midi off the dribble, capable of creating his own offense. He was the guy at Colorado, which you love to see, has a high usage, low turnover percentage, which usually shows good basketball IQ, as well as just kind of knowing how to have the ball in your hands and not make dumb, rash decisions. His weaknesses are not very athletic, not very long. With his lack of athleticism, limit his ability to create his offense. He does need to get stronger. That's the one thing that is really evident, especially him being a senior. He's pretty light in frame. Let me see what he weighed in. At the combine, he was 216, which isn't great. Isaiah Collier is a point guard, measured in at 204. So you'd ideally like to see him add a bit more size as he stays in the league. But I think that there's a lot of things to like with Tristan da Silva's offensive game. And to me, we talk about Harrison Barnes replacements. He's somebody who I could see being a Harrison Barnes replacement, especially on the offensive end. And who knows, in a couple of years, maybe he kind of rounds out his game and becomes something different. But I, over this weekend, have become a very, very, very big Tristan da Silva fan. And I think this is my guy. I think this is the one that I'm going to take to draft night and say, this is just the most obvious one to take for the Sacramento Kings. And when you look at his pro comps too, a lot of people having Jaime Jaquez as one of his comps as well. That is exactly what the Kings are looking for.
Yeah, the Sac Chat and the text line is saying they'd rather take a swing on a younger player.
I'm curious why that is. I mean, not
younger?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're younger.
No, I mean, I just think I think the ready now prospect is the way to go. I think again, if the Kings are looking to build in that Denver model, the Kings had no influx of youth this year. I mean, Keon Ellis, second season, sure, you can consider that. But I do think that there's something to having a young guy out there that just brings a bit of energy, brings a bit of an X factor, I guess. And I do think that he brings that. And I think that the hope with a young person is that you can develop them and you can teach them very specific skills moving forward. But I think the guy that Tristan da Silva is right now is an NBA role player. And I personally do think that there's still some meat on the bone there. I think that he can really become more skilled. I think he can be a pretty good ball handler, which would, in my opinion, really help his scoring ability. I like it, especially in a down draft where we don't really know what we're getting out of any of these guys. I'm okay taking what I think a lot of people are viewing as the most NBA ready guy right now. And to me, that's the exact kind of guy that the Kings should take and not let teams like, Orlando's of the world or the other teams that are kind of in the post lottery, but not in the late 20s. Right. Those are the kind of guys that this is the kind of guy that those teams absolutely love to take. And hopefully the Kings, you can maybe even trade back, but I think taking him at 13 wouldn't be crazy.
So he's playing with Cody Williams right now, or he was.
Yeah.
How good was Colorado? I'm looking here at the highlights.
They made the tournament.
They made the tournament.
I think they were at 8 or 9 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, I think they had to play in the first 4.
Yeah,
I saw some of the highlights. They had to go to the first 4.
Let me see. Colorado NCAA tournament.
I mean, I like him for sure. He's crafty.
Yeah.
When you have to be when you're not as athletic.
Right.
Does the lack of athleticism worry you about defense?
Yeah, I mean, defense is definitely my biggest concern for him. But honestly, again, like all things considered, I don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to get a complete all-around guy. Like the questions with, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think I would much rather take a guy that I know has some sort of professional skill set and hope that nobody really plays defense anymore. It's all kind of team defense. I don't necessarily think he's going to be an answer in that front. And I've been the one who's clamoring for a guy like Jaden McDaniels, but I that's kind of how excited I am about his offensive potential is I kind of don't care because I just kind of think he's going to be a player.
From the 916, if you're going to draft an upperclassman, I can't understand how it's possible it's not Deron Holmes. He's a big with playmaking chops that you can trade back for. He looks better on film to me than Da Silva. Deron Holmes from, shout out, Atlantic 10, Dayton Flyers. We will do our homework on Deron Holmes as well. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Also a fan of Ryan Dunn as well. Started doing some initial stuff on him.
Great stuff, Chris. Go and check out Tristan da Silva. He is smooth like butter, but will he be here in Sacramento? Depends on who you ask. Coming up next, ESPN.com gives 10 blockbuster